All right, Harvard professor of economics, Jeffrey Miron. I totally agree with the information he's covering and going over here. You know, most people that use illegal drugs never use them again. I took cocaine twice when I was in high school at parties, and it made me have the feeling of like the few times I had car wrecks or that I saw people in car wrecks that were really hurt, kind of that freaked out, wide awake feeling. And I was like, this isn't for me. I had a girlfriend that took Prozac, and I took a couple of those a couple times, and it didn't really, it just made me kind of feel like I was disconnected. So I never really liked illegal drugs. You know, most people that try them don't ever get into them. Unless they are illegal, the studies show, then they think it's cool and they want to keep using it. But I don't like marijuana. I don't like anything but caffeine now these days. I don't even drink beer. But going back to our guest, Professor Miron, finishing up here in the time we have, we appreciate your time. In summation, people are waking up. They're realizing the war on drugs is a fraud. The bigger it gets, the more drugs we have, the more people in prison. Where is all this going, and how do we overthrow this corrupt system? I mean, the government's, you know, involved in the drug trade up to their eyeballs, laundering the money and the rest of it. Are they ever going to let us get out from under this, or is that it?
Well, I think it's partially up to the people to send a clear signal to the government that they wanted to change. Politicians are like anybody else. They want to succeed, and for politicians, succeeding means getting reelected. So if there were a widespread support amongst the voters for changing the laws, I think the laws would change. The fact is that so far, people don't seem to see, not enough of the people see the wisdom of changing our laws, and so we're sort of stuck with the ones that we've got. So I wouldn't put the onus just on the politicians. I think we need to get more people to think about the issues as well.
Absolutely. But, I mean, studying this, I've seen the numbers, but is the worm starting to turn? Are people really starting to get what a ridiculous fraud this war on drugs is?
I don't know. I think that there's been a lot more discussion of it in the last 3-6 months, but there have been other times where there's been a lot of discussion, and yet nothing has really changed. On the whole, the pattern has been for enforcement and the strength of the laws to go up, not down. So it's hard to be too optimistic. I mean, I hope I'm wrong this time, but I don't quite see any mainstream politicians standing up and taking on this issue. You know, talk radio takes it on, and certain mainstream media types have taken it on. So it is getting more airtime, but it's not obvious it's getting enough attention from the right people for there to be a change.
Professor Jeffrey Miron, I'll tell you what I think the last piece of the puzzle is. It's all the newscasts pointing at the scum and the meth heads and the labs and the toddler walking around in the broken glass and the degeneracy of trash that is always going to be involved in whatever's illegal. You know, you make brewing whiskey illegal, they're going to be involved in it. You make making methamphetamine illegal, they're going to be involved in it, and it's going to be dirty and kill people. And so they can point at the criminal element and then go, see the criminal element, we got to keep this illegal, and just how trashy they are, the white trash and the rest of it. But the criminal element's going to be what, you know, always involved with wherever they can make a quick buck. So that isn't an honest argument, in my opinion.
Well, I think it's true that there are going to be people who tend to behave as criminals regardless, but they're only able to make a lot of money, and it's only attractive to draw in people who are not inherently sort of oriented toward being criminals if there's a lot of income there, and that's the result of prohibition. So I think, although you would see some people to continue to be sort of criminals regardless, I think a large fraction of the people involved would turn to something legitimate because there's no income to be made there's no excess income to be made if you legalize the trade.
Absolutely. I had a great uncle who in Prohibition ran most of the whiskey in South Texas, and he worked with some of the locals here in Austin, Texas. I mean, he wasn't what you'd call a criminal person. It just everybody knew it was a fraud. They could make a lot of money having fake dairies around the state, you know, making whiskey and delivering it in milk trucks.
Exactly. So you draw in a lot of people who, in a different world, would not be inclined to engage in criminal activity, but the temptations become sort of awfully hard to resist.
What about police? I mean, we've got some numbers. They vary, but, man, I tell you, places like Chicago and L.A. and places, I mean, there's more corrupt cops than you can shake a stick at.
Oh, it's a huge problem, and I think in many ways it's an even bigger problem in other countries where the level at which police are compensated is substantially below in the U.S., so the temptations are even greater. And again, there's nothing you can do to escape that once you have the activity prohibited.
And once a society gets to a level of corruption where enough people accept corruption, it then races like a staph infection through the body politic, and it collapses. Folks can just Google your name, find some of your great research, studies, and writings. We appreciate Harvard professor Jeffrey Miron of economics joining us. Professor, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the time. Thanks for coming on. All right, we'll come back, cover a bunch of swine flu news, take your phone calls, get into the attacks on free speech. I'm Alex Jones, prisonplanet.tv.
Are you tired of losing your hard-earned savings in retirement? Does the continued loss of purchasing power through the hidden tax of inflation brought on by trillions of dollars in government bailouts bother you? Then please let me, Dwayne Daly with Midas Resources, help you to protect what you have left. Call me at 800-686-2237 extension 115, and I will explain to you how to retain your wealth and purchasing power now and in the future with gold and silver. Gold and silver have been a form of currency for 6,000 years compared to our present fiat currency, which has only been in existence for 38 years and failing fast. Call me, Dwayne Daly, at 800-686-2237 extension 115 to start your protection of wealth today. I will custom fit the protection package to your personal needs. No amount is too small, so start today. Call Dwayne Daly with Midas Resources at 800-686-2237 extension 115 for your gold and silver protection portfolio.